Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh. I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is on some of the leadership team functions, tools, and reports that are available in the system in BNI Connect that can help you to do your jobs a lot more easily. It is April 2nd, so we do know that there has been a lot of changeover in the leadership teams. Some regions change over their leadership teams right around April 1st, whereas others may change over in October. So what we wanted to do is to kind of review some of these functions in the system that might be new to some people out there. This includes doing things like entering POMS report, establishing speakers in BNI Connect, assigning mentors and mentees, and some of the tools that are available, like being able to email your chapter, and some of the reports that you might be running on a daily basis. A couple of housekeeping tips before we get started. This is a live webinar, so if you do have any questions as we're going along, please do feel free to ask them. There's a questions panel where you can type in questions as we're going along, and I'd be happy to answer those. They pop up on my screen, and I can read them and answer your questions. This webinar is scheduled for about a half hour worth of content. At the bottom of the half hour, I'm also happy to open it up to all questions about BNI Connect. I'm personally always happy to stay on these webinars as long as you guys have questions, so do feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like, though I do try to keep the major portion of it to a half hour for those that might need to leave right away and get right back to their everyday lives. This webinar is being recorded. It will be made available shortly on our YouTube site. Our YouTube site is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And this has our entire collection of recorded webinars. It has shorter videos like educational moments that you can use in your chapters on a whole bunch of different topics. There's even some special announcements and videos from Dr. Meisner himself up there on our BNI Connect YouTube channel. You'll also be able to find them on our support site. If you're in BNI Connect, click on this question mark in the upper right-hand corner. This will take you over to our support site. It has our list of webinars, but if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the chapter training and documentation. Everything that we're going to go over today is documented here. So for example, under chapter operations, how to email a visitor invitation or other things about the system. You'll also see the recorded webinars done on a monthly basis, so you can see them in chronological order there as well. So let's get started on some of the things today. So again, we're going to be talking about some leadership team tools. So usually this is going to apply to people like presidents, vice presidents, secretary treasurers, also visitor hosts, mentor coordinators, and as we go through some of these functions, I'm going to show you all of the functions, but keep in mind that not all of the functions will be available to everybody that's on the call with us today. For example, if you're a mentor coordinator, you may see the functions in BNI Connect for assigning a mentor and a mentee, but you might not be able to see the assigning the speaker rotation or entering a POMS report. You would need to be a president or a vice president to be able to see those particular functions. So functions are available based on the roles that you have in BNI Connect. That also being said, if you are, let's say, a vice president, you're brand new in the role over the past couple of days, and you're not seeing these things, it might mean that your regional office hasn't yet coded you as a vice president, which means those options aren't available yet. If that's the case, just check in with your regional office. Talk to your director consultant, talk to your regional admin, your executive director, and they'll be able to tell you when it will become available or why it's not available. All right, so let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm in our testing and training server right now so that I don't mess up anybody's real-time stats. But what I'd like to do is to show you where some of the things that you will be doing as a leadership team will be. Just switching over to my own region here and my own chapter. All right, so this home screen is where you'll log into, and this is where as a general member, most of the stuff that you'll be doing is such as submitting slips and reviewing your slips. But in order to get to some of the leadership team level functions, we do need to go a little bit deeper into BNI Connect. Now, the place to find those are up in these menus up along the top. Notice we have Network, Operations, Reports, Tools, and Admin. And again, depending on your level of access, you may see some or all of these things. Now, from navigational purposes, the different menus bring you to different places in the system. So, for example, the Network menu brings you into a lot of the social media functions, connecting with other members, or accessing the social media groups, the discussion groups that we have in BNI Connect, or leaving testimonials for people that you're connected with. The way I look at operations is when you want to do stuff, usually when you want to input things into BNI Connect. So things like inputting the POMS report or inputting the speaker rotation. That's really where we go to the operations menu for. Reports, on the other hand, is when you want to pull data back out of the system. So you want to get a copy of the POMS report or a summary POMS report, or you want to get your roster report. That's where we go to the reports section. So tools and admins we're not going to touch upon today. Tools are functions like editing the chapter website, and admin is for higher level admin, kind of more once in a while functions. The first place we're going to look is under this operations menu. So you go to operations and chapter, and this will show you all the different things that you can do as a chapter level person. So you notice that this is broken into a bunch of menus on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. So each of the menus on the left will have corresponding things that'll change on the right-hand side. So we have Manage Visitor. That's obviously for working with visitors. So visitor hosts, this is where you would be going. Meeting Management has to do with the weekly meetings. So this is where we're going to be working with the POMS reports as well as the speaker rotation. Managing memberships, this is where secretary treasurers may have access to go into to do things like renewing members and dropping members. The goals program is available to all of the leadership teams. We're not going to really touch on that today. We do have a special webinar just for leadership team goals. That's going to be coming up this coming Monday. The mentoring program allows you to view and or reassign mentors and mentees. Emails gives you some quick email lists and visitor invitations. And the news function is a special function that allows you to have a news feed on your chapter website. So let's start out with the top level function, and that is the Manage Visitors. So this is where you would go into the system to do one of two things. There's two different times that we're going to work with visitors. One is before a chapter meeting, and that's to pre-register visitors for an upcoming chapter meeting. The second time is after a visitor has already shown up to your meeting. Now, most of these are pretty straightforward data entry things. So let's say that you're at a networking event, you talk to somebody, say, hey, you should really come and visit our BNI chapter, and say, yes, I'd love to come visit your BNI chapter. Well, what you'd want to do is to pre-register that visitor, and there's great reasons for doing that. They get a confirmation that they're going to come visit. They also get reminders about that upcoming visit before the meeting date. For that, what you'd want to do is to register a prospective visitor for your chapter. And this will pre-register somebody for an upcoming chapter meeting. So by clicking on Register a Prospective Visitor, you'll notice that there's just a bunch of fields that you have to fill out. So it'll let you know your region and your chapter name. You can choose their profession from the drop-down list, what date they'll be visiting, and you fill out their name information. Their phone number and email address. And click Submit. And what this will do is it'll, again, pre-register somebody for an upcoming meeting. Now that's really helpful because there's reports around this. The leadership team gets notified about this upcoming visitor, and you can be prepared for when that visitor has come to the meeting. Now, what about after a visitor has come? So you've had your weekly meeting, and now you have to record the visitors that have been to that weekly meeting. Well, there's two different ways to do that. So normally you would have your sign-in sheet at the meeting, and you'd bring that back from the meeting. What you're going to want to do is to check to see if they pre-registered, and then anybody that didn't pre-register, you also want to mark them down. Now, the way to do that is to go into, if you want to check to see if they registered for the upcoming meeting, we could go into Manage Registered Visitors. We can put in a date range if we'd like to, or we can search for a specific name, or we can just click Go, and we'd see all those people. So we have Jane Doe here that pre-registered for a meeting, and let's say that it is past the meeting date and they showed up to the meeting, and we wanted to mark them as having attended the meeting. So we can do that by clicking on the Edit button. And you'll notice that there's a box here for Visitor Attended. So this would allow us to mark off that this visitor did indeed come to this meeting. From there, we now do have to make sure that we select the person that invited them, because this will give them the credit for it in the POMS report. I'm going to make sure I put the correct day in that they visited, and correct any additional information that's in here. Now this person will become a part of our visitor database. Now, what about visitors that didn't pre-register for a meeting? Well, you want to be keeping track of those as well. And the way we do that is just through the Add a Visitor. Now, you'll notice that this form is, for the most part, exactly the same as the other form. So we just have to make sure that we fill out the form, and it will put that person into our visitor database for the chapter. It will also allow them to become part of all the statistical reports. We'll be able to email those visitors, and eventually, if they submit an application, we'll be able to convert them into members. Let's take a look at the next item here, which is meeting management. And this is where our vice presidents and our secretary treasurers are going to go into the system, usually on a weekly basis. For vice presidents, this is where you're going to go to enter your weekly POMS reports. So again, we would go to Operations Chapter, Meeting Management, and you'll notice when it comes to POMS, we have two different options here. We can view POMS summaries, so we can look at individual POMS reports that are in the system, or we can enter new POMS reports. If we click on View POMS Summary, we can put in a date, and it will show us all of the individual reports from that time. Now we can click on any of these reports and take a look at those details. So if I click on the word completed, it will bring me into that report, and I can look at all of the details for that report. I can also click on the Slips Audit Report to see all of the online slips that were entered for that particular meeting. If there's any errors in this report, if I have permission to, I can even unlock this report to make any changes. Now, one thing you'll notice is that as people pass online slips in BNI Connect, you'll see that as soon as an online slip is generated, including visitors, that a draft will be created. Now, one of the great things about your members and your chapters using the online slips program is that as a vice president, this makes your data entry job much, much easier. So let me go back a little bit. And if I look at this draft from a couple of weeks ago, we'll see that there's a number of referrals, thank you for closed business, visitors, etc. that have already been entered into the POMS report for me. So if I click on the Slips Audit Report, I can see that here's what information has been entered. There's been a referral, and there's also been thank you for closed business that's been entered. Now again, the more your members enter this online, the less you have to spend time counting up slips on a weekly basis. When you're ready to, you can enter the POMS reports into the system. So let's say that I'm a vice president, my chapter meeting is tomorrow, and I wanted to enter the POMS report for this coming meeting so that I'm ready for it. I would go to Meeting Management, click on Enter POMS, enter the meeting date. So let's say I'm entering the information for last week's meeting, and click Enter POMS. This will bring up a quick spreadsheet where I could then go through all of the paper slips that I received for that week, take attendance, of course, present, absent, late, medical, substitute. So let's say Christy was late that week, Elizabeth was absent, and Brian had a substitute. Then I would fill out the various referrals that I had slips for. So let's say that Brad gave a referral to Christine, one referral given and one referral received. Janet had a one-to-one with Peter. And Margaret Healy was thanked for $2,000 in closed business. As a vice president, I could also keep some notes about the meeting if I'd like to. And when I'm ready, I would click Submit POMS. This will finalize the report. All of these numbers will now become part of the history for the chapter, and all of the reports in the system would begin to reflect these numbers. Am I sure that I'd like to submit POMS? Yes. I can then review all of the information from the POMS to make sure it was entered correctly. And again, if I need to make any changes, I could unlock the POMS report and make the changes. Now, Kim asks, can you explain what is considered inside versus outside? So you'll notice that there's the two different types of columns here. There's RGI, RGO, RRI, and RRO. So the I column, RGI, stands for referrals given inside, whereas RGO stands for referrals given outside. Now, an inside referral means that the business stayed within the chapter. So what that means is that one member used another member's services. So, for example, in my own chapter, it would mean that let's say I needed my website redone, I used the web designer in my chapter. So the business, again, stayed within the two members of the chapter. An outside referral is when I refer somebody else, anybody else in my network outside of the chapter. So it could be a friend, it could be a colleague, it could be a family member. I refer them to that member of the chapter. So it's the difference between a first-tier referral and a second-tier referral. So does that make sense, Kim? So is RGI the right category when I use a member from a different chapter? So again, yes, as long as you are referring yourself, so you are personally writing out a check or giving the credit card to another member, an inside referral is when you refer yourself to somebody else, even if it is in another chapter. Cool. Any other questions on the POMS report? One other thing that I wanted to show you guys quickly on the POMS report is you'll notice there's a couple of other options here. Mark as holiday, save as draft, and discard POMS. When you mark it as a holiday, it will basically close out this report. It'll zero out the report and not count it as a weekly meeting. So let's say that your chapter happens to meet on Thursdays, and there was, Thanksgiving always falls on a Thursday. Your chapter decides not to meet that week. That would take all of the online slips that were entered and it would push them into next week's chapter meeting, and it wouldn't count this meeting towards things like traffic lights reports and things like that. Save as a draft. Let's say that you have a big chapter and you're getting through your POMS report and you only get halfway through it. You have an emergency phone call that you need to go take care of right away. You could always save this as a draft and come back to and correct it later. Discard means that you just want to start all over again. Let's say you made some mistakes in the report and you'd like to just bring it back to the way it was. You could discard it. All of the online slips that were entered will come back into the report, but it would allow all the manual entry that you've done to be started over. All right, cool. Any other questions on the POMS report? All right, cool. So I'm going to go back to Operations chapter. And let's take a look at the next thing under Meeting Management, and that is to view and edit the speakers. And this is for secretary treasurers that are on the line. This is where you would go to enter your speaker rotation. Now, it's great to enter your speaker rotation here in BNI Connect for a couple of reasons. One of which is the speaker rotation will appear on the chapter website, but only if you enter the speakers into BNI Connect. So for example, if I go to my chapter's website, you'll notice that the next 4 weeks of speakers are all listed on our chapter website. This is great exposure. It also gets these people's names out into the Google search engines and things like that. The other cool thing it does is that the speaker will get a reminder 6 days before and 3 days before the chapter meeting that they are the registered speaker for that week. Entering speakers is a pretty straightforward process. We click on View, Edit Speakers. If we'd like to see the list of speakers, we could do a search. If we'd like to add speakers, we click on Assign Speaker. We choose the date that they're speaking, who the speaker is, and their topic. Could be their company name, or if you happen to know what they're going to be speaking about. And click Submit. And now that speaker has been assigned. If that speaker has a problem or they need to cancel or be replaced by somebody else for that week, you could just click Delete, and that person would be removed from the speaker rotation. One thing you may notice, and we get this question quite a bit in support, when you go to assign your speaker, you may see some people in the list that aren't necessarily members of your chapter. This speaker list will actually include all of the regional people as well. So for example, Brenda Curry, she happens to be our executive director here in Rhode Island. She's not a member of the chapter, but she does occasionally come and speak to our chapter. There's also another person here, John Meyer. He's our U.S. National Director. So it does include our regional and our national leadership in this list of speakers, available speakers as well. All right, we have a question from Jesse. Jesse says, for thank you for closed business, it's the referring member that gets the credit, correct? That is correct. The person that generated the referral that turned into revenue. So, for example, you give me a referral. That referral, I'm able to close that referral and it turns into $1,000 worth of business for my company. I would then submit a thank you, thanking you for that $1,000 that was generated. In the POMS report, you have the $1,000 next to your name as dollars generated for my business. Does that make sense, Jesse? All right, let's go back to Operations Chapter and take a look at a couple of other things. We are getting pretty close to the bottom of the hour here. So one of the other things that you often have to do in the leadership team is to communicate with your chapter. So you might need to send an email to your chapter letting them know about this week's meeting. I'm currently a president of my chapter, and I like to send out a weekly recap every week to let my members know what happened in the chapter meeting and to recap what people talked about in their 60 seconds and who the 10-minute speaker was. That used to be really hard to do because we didn't really have a list, an easy-to-get-to list of everybody's email address. Usually people end up just reply all to the last group email that was sent, but it never gets to the right people. So if you need to email your chapter on anything quickly, you can do that. Click on Create Email, and then Email My Chapter. This will give you the email addresses for everybody in your chapter. You just need to highlight them and copy them. And then you do need to use your own email program, but I recommend putting them into the BCC line. You can type out your email. Great meeting this week, guys. Thank you very much to our 10-minute presenters. And click Send. So again, makes it very easy to get the email addresses for the other members in your chapter. Now, if we have any mentoring people on the call with us today, the mentor coordinators, one of the other great parts of the system is that you can assign mentors and mentees. And this is also part of an email and training campaign that is built into BNI Connect. When you pair up a mentor and a mentee, for the next 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how it's set up in your region, all of those two members will get an email reminding them of what they should be teaching and learning that week. It's pretty easy to assign mentors and mentees, almost as easy as assigning speakers. So the way we do that is we would go to the mentoring program and we would assign a mentor and mentee. We just need to pick the date that this program is going to start. So this is the date that they would get their first email. Let's say I'd like them to get these emails on Fridays since our chapter meets on Thursdays. I'd like them to get those on Fridays. I select who the mentor is, and I select who the mentee is. I could then click Submit. And if I'm the mentor coordinator and I'm keeping an eye on this, I'll take a look at the View Mentor Mentees, and I can see all of the people in my chapter that are assigned as mentors and mentees. And I can see here, the chapter, who the mentor and who the mentee is. I can even cancel this mentor program, or I can edit it to assign a different mentor. All right, so let's see. We are getting to the bottom of the hour. We do have a question here. Michael says, anything for educational coordinators? Educational coordinators, there is some stuff in here for you. The place that you are most likely going to go to find some information is, I'll give you two different places, primary places to look when it comes to BNI Connect. The first place is that all regions have a document sharing section in BNI Connect where they can upload all sorts of things. They can upload forms and they can upload files, and a lot of them will also upload a lot of educational material within BNI Connect as well. It could be presentations or ideas or things like that. Now the place that you go to find that, that's considered one of the social media functions. So what I would do is click on My Network here on the home screen, and you'll see here the 6 social media tiles. The one called Documents would have any of the documents that your region has uploaded into this section. So if you click on the More button here, you can take a look at the resources that are there. So if you're interested in teaching something on the SLIPS program, you can click on you can download a file, and you can use that particular document to do an educational moment. Let's say I wanted to teach about the proper way for filling out all of the various slips in BNI, or how to calculate thank you for closed business. Now, each region is going to have a different set of slips. This is managed by your local team, so your executive director. So do check with them if there's other things that you'd like to see in there. Now, the second place I'll turn you to, again, is to the support help site in BNI Connect. There's a ton of material up there as well. And again, click on this question mark in BNI Connect, and that'll take you over to the support site. Now, one particular section you might find of interest, in the public forums, there's a thing called BNI Connect Educational Moments. And as we go through the Get Connected series, we're putting more and more things up here. But here is a couple of educational moments that you can use. They have videos in here. They have documents that you can use. They have presentation ideas for your educational moment presentation. So for example, if I pull up this document, this has some material in it, some presentation ideas, other suggestions, and of course, just about anything that you'd like to teach about BNI Connect is available here as well. So for example, if you'd like to teach your chapter how to do how to use BNI Connect to send a visitor invitation, you could look in this chapter operations and email a visitor invitation. There's a walkthrough guide for how to perform this function and even what it looks like. There's a ton of other resources, of course, out there as well. BNIpodcast.com is one place you can go. Your regional website may have some information. BNI.com also has an educational coordinator section, so there's material out there for you. Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Michael says, a different Michael, Michael Powell says, can you walk us through the steps to get into that section again? Sure. When you're logged into BNI Connect, in the upper right-hand corner here is a question mark. Click on that question mark, and again, that will take you to the support site. And again, there's different forums and suggestions. You can even do a search. So right up here at the top, so let's say I do a search for visitor invitation. It would help if I spelled it correctly. And I can click on that, and again, that'll show me the walkthrough for that. You can also just go directly to support.bniconnect.com. And the YouTube address, Alice, thank you for being on the call, Alice. Alice asks, please repeat the YouTube address, and that is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. All right, if you want, I'm going to put that in the chat window as well, so if anybody wants to, they can copy it and paste it. So hopefully that helps, Alice and Michael. Again, we're a couple of minutes over, so if anybody does need to leave, I want to thank you guys for being here. We are recording this whole thing, so if you do want to review it later, you can. But again, any questions you guys have, keep them coming. I do have one question left in the box from James, but if anybody else has any questions, please ask them now. So James says, when a visitor is registered, they aren't counted as a visitor until we update the POMs, correct? That is correct. So there's a three-step process to that, James. First, the visitor can register themselves for a meeting. So that can be done through the regional website or through the process I showed you. That puts them into a pre-registered visitors database. Now, once you go in as a visitor host or as a leadership team person and you mark them as attended, that is the process that will then give the credit into the POMS report. The third and final step is when your vice president actually goes through, reconciles all the electronic activity with all of the paper activity that happened that week, submits the POMS report, and now it becomes an official statistic for all of the reports that are in the system. Does that make sense, James? Does that help? All right, what other questions? Who else has questions? I'd be happy to answer those questions at this time. Nick says, BNI SuccessNet today, there was an article about BNI Connect Google Maps. How is Google Maps connected to BNI Connect? Excellent question, Nick. So the way that Google Maps, there's a couple of ways that Google Maps is connected with BNI Connect. Now, the article that you're referring to, I believe that's the one that that was from Bob Moses, correct, Nick? So that one is a specific one that's on the regional website. So let me show you what that looks like. So if I go, my particular regional website is Rhode Island. I'm in the Rhode Island and Massachusetts region. There's an ability on here that we can look at a map for our particular region, and it shows us where all of the chapters are. So when there's, let's say, a visitor that's looking to visit a BNI chapter, they can, let's say, look in their particular area. They can locate a chapter that they might want to visit or that they're thinking about visiting. They can look at the details of that chapter. They can see the members, and they can sign up to visit that chapter. And of course, that's also true for potential chapters. So we have a chapter here in our region that we're hoping to start up in Narragansett. It hasn't been formed yet, but we can register to visit that particular chapter. The second way that Google Maps can be used is through the chapter websites. And a lot of chapters, what they'll do is they'll just put a Google map of their chapter location on their particular chapter website. So I know that there's one chapter out there, it's called the Mill River BNI chapter, and they're in Massachusetts. Notice it comes up first in a Google search, but you can see what they did here is they embedded a Google map right onto their chapter website. And you or your chapter webmaster would be able to do that as well for your chapter website. So does that help, Nick? Is that what you were looking for? So, and Alice, I know that you had a question earlier today about the Google Maps, so I'm going to contact you separately on that one as well. And Alice, there are some steps at a executive director level for updating that on your website. So again, I'll contact you separately on that one. All right, my questions box is empty. Does anybody else have any questions at all about BNI Connect or any of the other functions? I know I didn't touch on all of the different leadership team positions, but if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. All right, if there's no additional questions, I'd like to thank everybody for their time today. If you found this information useful, we do hold regular webinars here at BNI Connect. You can find them on our support site, again, by clicking on the question mark in BNI Connect or going to support.bniconnect.com. Our very next webinar is going to be on this coming Monday. That's going to be BNI Connect Chapter Goals for Leadership Teams. We're going to be going in depth into the Goal Planning 101 section of BNI Connect, where you can establish your goals for your entire term and talking about different strategies for doing so. And we'd love to have you on that call. And we also have other ones through the rest of the month as well for the online slips and the social media portions and some of the other tools and reports that are accessible to all members. Finally, I would love it if you gave us a like on Facebook, facebook.com BNI Connect Global. We do tips and tricks and webinar reminders and announcements and all sorts of things up there as well. So I would love it if you could give us a like there. All right, if there's no other questions, again, thank you everybody for your time today, and I look forward on seeing you on a future webinar. Happy connecting, everyone.